I was having anxiety, constant anxiety and panic attacks by myself almost every day. I realized like I really needed help because I literally felt like the world was falling down on me.
30-year-old Rhiannon Yi is of Chinese descent. The Burnaby resident has been struggling for the last 12 months as violence toward Asian Canadians and Asian Americans grows amid the backdrop of the pandemic.
In the Asian community, seeking help for mental health is often met with stigma. But a couple of months ago, Yi decided enough was enough.
For my mom, she didn't really understand what was going on. She just thought like I was well, this sounds bad, but just like Asian culture is like you must be, you must have something wrong with you. When it's actually completely normal to have like a mental health crisis, especially as everything that's happening around the world right now.
3 registered clinical counselors News 1130 has spoken with say they're seeing a spike in people of Asian descent, both inquiring and setting up appointments so they can work through their emotional struggles.
Even if I look back between this year and last year, I've seen just anecdotally on my end a huge increase. Whereas before, Asian Canadians made up a very small portion of my caseload. In the last 2 weeks, it's been the vast majority of my caseload or my new clients.
If you want numbers like a tenfold increase in my caseload just on talking about racial identity, racial trauma, and what's been happening in our world today.
Lim says the majority of her new clients fall under the millennial or Gen Z category.
I think a big thing that came up was the shooting in Atlanta. That was when I saw a huge increase in Asian Canadians seeking, specifically looking for a therapist who is Asian, who could help them process through just racial identity, racism, just grappling with all these things.
She adds even if people aren't comfortable enough to speak to a counselor or therapist, they're finding other ways to bridge the gap.
There's lots of Facebook groups and things like that where people are sharing their stories. So even if that can be a point of connection to start to identify like, oh, okay, maybe some of the stuff that's happening for me is similar. Maybe this is okay. Maybe I can start talking about this. Just even like these small progressions of a step are huge steps.
Mia Anthony says she's seen an increase in referrals too, but she's also asking people who are not Black, Indigenous, or of color to do their part.
Almost along the lines of like putting the responsibility on the victim. Like, why are we doing that? I almost want to reach out to people who are Caucasian descent and say, hey, also look at yourself and come to terms that you most likely are a racist. And let's talk about that. Let's have that out there. So the change is not coming necessarily from the victim, but from the oppressor, the abuser, if you will.
For City News in Vancouver, I'm News 1130's Ria Renouf.